did you get past the feeling, and maybe you didn't have this feeling, but based on other people I've talked with who have survived things that probably they shouldn't have survived, frankly, based on statistics and injuries, that you were saved for a purpose. Like, did you have a weight of that on you that, my goodness, if I survived, I must be supposed to do something, or did that never hit you?
So, I did feel a pressure to do something, but it was a self-imposed pressure. No one really ever made me feel that way in person. Um, at least not while I was in like the very, emergency like treatment phase of my life where it was like, life or death. It was way after I had left the ICU. I was now in the ward, definitely going to survive. And people would visit me and, tell me, oh my God, you were safe for a reason. And it definitely used to put a lot of pressure on me because I would be like, I don't have any idea what the reason could be or how I would even discover it. Or, just basically gave me a lot of like feelings like, responsibility that was imposed by other people. But I did have the one that I like by myself. I had decided that I was going to live my life for those who passed away. That was something that was like a self-imposed pressure on like myself to, first of all, help me move on, help me get the strength to move on, to get strength from what happened instead of letting it cripple me. And to do it for those kids, most of who were my friends that didn't survive. I wanted to make sure my life meant something for their sake. And for me, though, it didn't have to be anything extraordinary. It just meant to me that if I applied myself to something, I would do it wholeheartedly, whether it was ordinary or incredible. I just wanted to make sure that I lived my life with no regrets and with full appreciation of that life. It was a second chance at life that they didn't get. And so I felt that responsibility to live for them. But people made it seem like I had to do extraordinary things. And that made me feel a lot of pressure until a conversation I had with my family's a friend of the family, essentially, who he came into my room and he just kind of, I don't know who told him or how he knew. I guess he just assumed, considering my situation, I probably have heard a lot of people saying, you're safe for a purpose, blah, blah, blah. So he just kind of like let me know, hey, whatever you're hearing, just you don't need to just listen to any of that. All you need to do is just live your life, heal properly. Maybe that is the whole point. Maybe the whole point of your life is to show people how well a person can live despite something that's bad happening to them. So I don't need to feel that kind of pressure to do something crazy extraordinary because I survived something crazy extraordinary. And I think hearing that from him was very much a confirmation of how I felt and definitely relieved me too, because I felt like, less pressure, and I felt like the way that I had thought about it was actually okay, where it's like just live for them and make sure they're happy and proud of the way that you're living your life for them. So that's how I kind of processed that. Of course, everything I just said happened in the span of like a bunch of months. It wasn't like overnight, but that's how I think I dealt with that kind of pressure, I guess, and ever since that conversation with that guy, it hasn't really, I mean, I still meet people who say the same thing, but I think I've internalized just a different message of how to live my life for them. And if something incredible happens along the way, cool. If not, I don't feel any type of way about it.
It's really great perspective because very few people are going to be one of two survivors of a plane crash, but every single person on planet Earth is going to feel pressure about something or have go through something they weren't expecting or something that's difficult and feel like, oh my goodness, because of this, I have to change my
Yeah,
life or
yeah,
and
yeah.
and the release of that and how you talked about it, I think is really great advice that everyone can connect to.
I definitely hope so. I definitely feel like there was definitely a freedom in realizing that my life, is a gift and it's a second chance. And it's one that I basically just felt the need to live wholeheartedly, especially now that it was even more of a gift than ever, now that it was something that was a miracle, So I think there was a freedom in realizing that I didn't have to make sure that, it became something just drastically different. I think in fact, I felt like the point of my life was even more to like show how normal the life could be despite something this crazy happening to a person. I can still wear the same things I like to wear. I don't have to change my personality. I don't have to change my interests, my point of views, or well, I mean that would change as time passes, inevitably. But more like my sense of humor, just things about me that I thought were good about my personality pre-accident. Those things I didn't have to suddenly become a different person because of what happened, and people didn't treat me differently. And I think that that was the main thing that helped me stay in that mindset of like, you can just be yourself. You can still be the same Kechi. People will kind of adjust to how you look now, even if you don't look like Kechi, that how Kechi used to look before. So I got that kind of energy from my family, and it kind of gave me confidence to continue living like in that authentic way.
And again, so many people I think can relate to that. And but it's really profound, even though it's so simple. It's really profound that the best gift you can give, the best way you can honor the people who did not survive, is to live a normal life. And if cool things happen along the way, well, that's a bonus. But just to go back to being who you were before and to not let that drastically change you to the point where you're not able to live a normal life, and to honor those people because they were not able to live a normal life. So, and yet people who haven't Googled you or followed you on social media or saw you sing, you are, every time you look in the mirror, you're reminded that you did change. Something did happen, right,
Yep.
in 2005. How did you, especially as a woman, where so much pressure is put on how we look, and especially at your age when this all happened, how did
Yeah.
you get past that? How did you learn to find yourself beautiful in a new way?
That was definitely that was a, I guess, a milestone moment in my life, really, when I realized that you know when I came to a decision basically about my identity, and what role I was going to allow my scars and my new appearance play in my life, and what priority I was going to give it in my life. It was something that came from the first time that I saw my reflection after the accident. And this was about maybe 3 months after. And everything was still fresh. Obviously, I was still bandaged head to foot. I had third-degree burns over 65% of my body. So everything literally burned except for my tummy and my back. And so I was covered head to toe in bandages. And over time, I saw more and more of myself, and the bandages that covered me. And I knew that my head was also covered in bandages and my face. So that told me that, whatever injuries I was seeing, definitely extended to my face and my head, so there were definitely changes there. I could feel it, but I couldn't see it. So I guess at some point when I started feeling stronger and more curious, I asked my mom to please, give me a mirror, and I wanted to see how I looked. And honestly, I mean, she froze and, was obviously very hesitant. And I understand, because I was the same way. Because growing up, I was 16 and I was very pretty as a teenager and very aware of it. And I felt like a lot of my confidence came from my physical appearance, because it did give me a lot of confidence, because I felt like I looked really good and I liked how I looked. I guess every teenager really is very self-aware and a little vain at some point. I was definitely very vain. So basically my family knew that I took a lot of pride in my appearance. And so my mom especially. So when that changed, of course, they would be scared of how I would react to like how I look and how it would change me. And all their fears were my fears as well, because, as someone who felt like, a lot of a personality, a lot of a confidence came from her personal appearance, then I just felt like whatever I see, if it's different, how is it going to change me? How is it going to change my perspective of myself? And whatever changes that were going to come from that, I wanted to see myself and start whatever therapy I needed to start feeling better about myself. I didn't want it to hold me back from enjoying my life. But I did expect it fully to make me feel like, I guess restricted in how I can live and how I can show myself to the world. So anyway, the next day my mom brought the mirror, and I, kind of braced myself, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I saw my reflection for the first time. This was, I guess, like 3 months in. Yeah. And I remember just looking and seeing, first of all, everything was so like just pink, because all my skin was like gone from my face. And so it was just like really red, like blotchy and red. And then like just imagine like having all your skin like kind of stripped away from your face. There's no way you're gonna look normal. Like, so when I saw myself, it was like a little daunting, because I was like, oh, it's definitely, I mean, I definitely did not look like Kechi that I remembered, in my memories, it was very different. But I think the most interesting thing that happened that day, that moment, was that even though I was like jarred, it was jarring to see myself look so different. It was also very interesting to see how still similar some certain things were. Like my eyes looked like my eyes, and my nose was where it was supposed to be. My lips were still there. And I don't know how to explain it, but it wasn't really a physical thing. It was just more like just a feeling of like this essence of this person looking back at me does not feel unfamiliar. It's not a stranger. It felt like it was me. And I didn't look like myself. So it was very confusing because even though I didn't look like me, I still felt like it was me. And I think in that moment, that was when my mantra, that is like my life mantra now, was born, which is that, oh, because like I realized like I can still feel like myself even though I don't look like myself. So obviously that means whatever makes us who we really are goes well beyond the physical, and I think that realization was what freed me the most from, like, I guess, the world's opinions or anyone's opinions really about my appearance, and allowed me to kind of see myself as more than what I look like on the outside, as more than my scars. And so that was like the birth of me saying, I am more than my scars. My scars do not define me. That entire phrase, that mantra, became my life mantra, essentially became the title of my book, all because that's truly what I felt in that moment. And it was extremely freeing to get to that point of thinking because, like I said before, I didn't have to change. I was still the same. I may not look like the Kechi but I am still the Kechi And I have to say also, the family support and just in general, the support system that I had, because it wasn't just family, it was a whole bunch of other people. They reinforced that feeling, like, that I was going about this the right way. When I put myself out there and acted the same way and acted like my scars were secondary to how I really was or who I really was, they kind of validated that feeling by not treating me any different. And I think this was all in the hospital before I even got back out into the world. So once I understood that my scars did not define me and that they will always be a part of me, but not represent my entire identity, understanding that before going back out into the world was obviously key, because when I got out there, I was going to get judged by people. People were going to see me and kind of be just, as jarred as I was when I first saw myself, and who would blame them? Anyone would look twice at something unusual. So I also always give grace to other people when they react in different ways. I guess I just prepare myself for different reactions, but I don't let them affect how I feel about myself. And I think that is all because I had that chance in the hospital to decide that for me, so I don't go out there and let the world decide, how I should feel about me. So I think that's how I dealt with that, really. And just understanding that my scars were just surface and that I was so much more than that. I internalized that, and I carried that with me from the hospital everywhere I went. And I think that it shows in every interaction I have with, like, people, whether it's strangers or friends. And I just, I'm grateful for that kind of perspective, because it helped me live my life despite what happened to me. So yeah, that's pretty much how I dealt with that.